So this guy, I mean, I said we were at opposite ends of the earth, and he came by my shop one day just to talk. And
Yeah.
we still do a lot of talking.
No, I walked by an garage door open with all the most awesome cars I could have ever
in
dreamed
Jeffersonville.
of.
This is where, yeah.
And then I got the courage to just go, I'm walking back to
Yeah.
talk to that guy.
But anyway, you know, he goes into his story, and he graduates from Harvard. He, you know, I mean, just
Yeah.
I
Dude
mean,
has a wild story. I
He
mean, both
does,
of you
doesn't
guys
he?
have pretty wild story.
yeah.
Subscribe to Harvard Magazine. They need your subscriptions badly. I've got a copy right here.
It's probably not on my top 10 list, but I was lucky to learn to read in many certain instances. You know, I said
Your mom was a
no,
English
she was an
teacher.
English major,
Major.
And she hammered me on trying to speak well. And
Hmm.
so
That's a good. That's a
so
good thing.
so we're going to go back to you. I promise we're not. This is not about me, but my parents bought me a Vox Continental organ in 1969.
Hmm.
I got in a local rock band, and I was 14 years old. You know, we were playing the junior high prom, and I mean all these places.
Good
Yeah.
times.
But it
Yeah.
got me in front of people, and it got me. So to me, music was the bridge between being a shy child who didn't play sports. So you know, they trained me, Brian, learn how to paint. Brian, learn how to fly a plane. Okay, let's learn how to sail a sailboat. Learn how to play the accordion.
Right.
But that doesn't put you with people, so you don't know how to interact. I get to junior high school, and now you got to learn how to fight instead of
Mm.
when
right.
when needed, when necessary,
when
maybe.
necessary.
Yeah.
And so it was just, but music. Now I have to go on stage and play my part and do that. And
Right.
I kept that organ in my bedroom for 30 years. I still have it in perfect shape. I carried it all over but that Vox Continental organ, you know, the one with the S legs and their reverse keys, they're orange. The Beatles played them, the Dave
okay,
Clark
okay.
Five. I mean,
Yeah.
all the iconic bands in my life.
Was that made by Vox, the amp company?
Yeah.
in
Yeah, I've
Frederick?
got a Vox amp and that Vox.
Yeah. I got a Vox
Continental, it's called.
AC30. I love those.
So everybody asked about that organ, and I said, "Oh yeah, I still got it." But it was every time I looked at it, because I've had my life was giving speeches. That's really what I did, representing cities for the first half of my adult career. And it just, I was never nervous doing it. I felt completely.
That's a gift, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, that was the gift from that. That's why I looked at
Right.
that object many times. I'm like, I'm never going to be in the Beatles, but that allowed me the opportunity to move on to the next phase in my life, which you talked about earlier. It either happens or it doesn't, and it's meant to be or not. And
Right. Yeah.
music wasn't going to be
It
my
was-
thing. I
yeah,
wanted
that was
to
the
do.
foundation of your confidence, and
Thank you.
it's a
that's-
symbol for you, and you do keep it. I've seen
Yeah,
it.
you've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so.
Well, it's cool. It's cool. Like, you know, I think, you know, even like me going into other things in my life, it's cool to do something well when you're young and kind of get validated and be like, okay, I can do something, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, or you have bigger people go, you know, and so I think that was a neat, I don't know if that.
Well, I
dovetails
just
in
was.
what you're saying,
Yes.
but you know what I'm saying.
Life is a series. I said life in
Right.
general is a compilation of all your decisions, but you also stack the blocks. And every time you stack a block, if you're doing something other than, we talk about the passions of life in here and
Yeah.
what does it for people. I said, well, as long as you're not sitting on the couch watching somebody else play football and
Yeah.
you personally do nothing. I don't mean you one emphatically as, you know, as a person, they do nothing and then are miserable because they always say, if only I'd gone to college, or if
Yeah.
only I'd learned to play music, or if only I'd learned to not be scared when I got in front of people and had to speak, or if only.
Yeah.
So
I think there's two kinds of people. Like, is like you either like being on the stage or in the seats, you know? And I feel
Like
like whenever I'm in the seats, I'm like, damn it, I wish I was on stage right now, you know? But that just kind of everything in life. I would rather, there's producers and consumers, you know? And
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm a fanboy and consumer of some things and there's bands I love, but it's like overall in my life, like I think I started growing up I would always be looking at the back of records going, who produced this? Who's the
That's so
Wizard of Oz,
cool.
right? So
Yeah.
and I kind of idolized those people because the deeper I got into making things, the more I realized how big of a part how big of a part Steven Spielberg
Right.
had versus Harrison Ford in that movie. Or, actors are still amazing, but so I've always kind of wanted to be a producer.
Yeah.
But what is it with people that want to be on stage? I
Yeah.
always felt that too. It's like
But
I can do that. I could do a better job at that. I can.
But at the same time, it's like I've played music and I've been on stage. I don't really have. Some people just lust for the on stage. I don't have to be seen. I want to be but I do kind of want to be in charge of it. You know what I mean?
Love that.
I don't know. It's just I like to be the director of it. I don't have to be on camera.
Yeah.
I am more because I'm building kind of more of a personal brand now, but I don't have to. I'm not. Some people just really lust for that though. They want the attention. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like I've had attention at different little times, not a ton, but I've had enough to know that I really don't care. If having attention gets something good to happen, then I'm fine with it. But I don't have to have that. I could be behind the camera or have somebody,
Yeah.
seeing other people's stuff. That's what a lot of just even working with clients that I do. Like I think one of the first, it's crazy. When I first met Mark,
Back to Mark Maxwell.
he
yes.
started, yeah. I was probably 24, 25, and he had me to start writing songs for his daughter's band
Okay.
and a couple other younger. It was like kind of like little Disney kind of bands, right? So I was writing these like pop rock, pop punk kind of songs, and it was wild because it was like the first time as a songwriter I'd always been in bands, wrote my own songs and played. But I started writing songs for them and producing my songs with these kids playing it, right?
Oh.
And it was a wild feeling, just like, and then I would even, sometimes one time we went to Cincinnati and we went to Nashville and I would go run a front of house sound for them, It was just so wild seeing these kids play my songs. It was strange, right? But I imagine as a songwriter, these people that are just like hit songwriters for a long time, it's a wild thing because they're at home watching MTV, but it's a cool experience going like, I wrote that song, right?
Wow.
But I mean, I'm saying I got a tiny little taste of that feeling. And so that's a cool thing when you can really sit back and go, I'm a piece of the puzzle. You don't have to be the star, but that's a cool feeling too, going like, because, it's the real heart a lot of times is in the writing, it's writing the script or writing the, and
It's the foundation.
the
Nothing's
story
gonna
or
happen
the
without
hook
that.
and the melody and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that was a cool experience. But
The irony, speaking of her, is 2 weeks ago, this girl comes by my shop, which is kind of like it's where I paint, I draw, I build cars. I mean, everything happens in my shop.
mhm.
I just go in there, and one day I saw a board that looked like it was bent like the shape of a gun, and I made this almost a gun sculpture to hang on the wall. And if it comes to me, anyway. This girl stops by and she goes, "What are you doing here? Who would it be?"
Remy. Yeah.
Remington. I said, "What's your name?" She goes, "Remington Maxwell." And I'm like, "Damn, you ought to be a movie star."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Remington Maxwell, what a name! And so Mark can watch this, but she came, and then we talked for a half an hour standing on the corner.
Yeah.
She's a really interesting person.
She's such a
as
sweet
is
girl.
Mark, so easy to talk to.
Yeah.
But you can see where
And-
she gets it from, honestly. And
super talented in her own right, just an
Mm.
amazing singer and yeah.
never met her before.
Yeah.
When I started an advertising agency, I've told this story 1,000 times. I thought I liked Mom's music. It was on the corner of the Point there at the Lexington Road and
Yep.
Grinstead, or that area.
Yep.
And I just decided I would roll in there one day, and I didn't know Marvin. I just said, "I like your building." And he goes, "What do you do?" I said, I started an advertising agency. He said, "Who are your clients?" I said, "I'm hoping it'll be you," and because I've only got about 3 other people I've spoken to.
Yeah.
He goes, "What are you doing?" I explained it to him. Had this little TV package with Fox 41 I put together. And he goes, "Have a seat." And at the end of that, he goes, "I'm going to do it." And I'm like, thank you. I was starving to death.
Wow.
And he knew it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he said yes.
Yeah.
And I told Mark, I said, man, I said, I went on to, help do the launch. I mean, not launch. They had already launched the Kroger card, but I did every deal for Kroger's and all kinds. I mean, I had a lot of success. But if it hadn't been, I'm not sure my company
Yeah.
would have made it without a few guys like him that would say yes and didn't really need to.
Yeah.
That's-
Totally.
It's hard.
Yeah,
It's
when
hard
you-
to start from scratch and scratch your way in, into a
Well, it just, yeah.
company.
Yeah.
I mean, I found it
It's
tough.
so you think back about any times of your beginnings, and I mean, I'm still there now. I'm still building something new in a
We
certain
all
kind of
are,
way.
yeah.
But those people that it's so crazy what you can do when like one person believes in you. It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't take that much.
Yeah.
So tell people right now what you're doing. We talked a little bit about the past. I want you to. So here's
Yeah.
the commercial
So-
for you. What are you doing now, and who would you want to call you or talk to you?
Yeah. So
Exactly.
my company is called Think Emotion, and we do
Emotion.
Think Emotion. Yep. ThinkEmotionMedia.com. We do personal branding video for CEOs, authors, keynote speakers, thought leaders, people that are, and honestly, people that are trying to take their personal brand to the doom scroll. We're all about vertical videos, all about short form. We want people when they're sitting there scrolling to find you and to hear great stuff from you. And also, so I go film podcasts from people and personal branding content. I go film people speak, go mic them up, shoot them with 2 cameras, film their speeches, all stuff to make reels out of. But I have different types of clients. I have people that I work with, like Fred, and I don't do all his stuff. I do just some of his stuff. I have a client right now that's a nonprofit that assists educating human trafficking shelters all around the country. So,
Wow.
so we do make reels of them, human trafficking awareness and all kinds of stuff. Gets pretty dark, making that kind
Dark
of
but
content.
powerful.
But very powerful, very
Motivating.
needed. They're amazing. What they're called, the Institute for Shelter Care, or Institute for Survivor Care. Sorry, but just really,
Who's the client that you would? I mean, a typical person other than corporations. When you said CEOs, I'm thinking immediately.
well, a
corporations,
lot
but-
of what I'm trying to do is, say if there's a CEO of a big organization, but they wrote a book, right? They have their own social media pages. They need pretty much everybody needs their own TV show now, but they need reels. They need, if they go travel, like with Fred, it's like, so we've done a bunch of random stuff now, but in October we filmed an episode of his show at Woodinville Whiskey in Woodinville, Washington. So we went up there and did that, and then we did shot a show of a barrel pick that he did with some of his Patreon members, and so stuff like that, where people just need and they need to make reels out of it. They need people to go film it, but so yeah, and now I do that for clients, and I'm scaling that operation, but I'm also building my own personal brand under Think Emotion. So I go out and just interview people. So that's been really fun. I'm just starting to really get into that. So my thing, if you see me, you're probably gonna get sick of me.
No.
But so I just, and partly what I do, I don't care about giving away secrets. I'm just saying, like, this is my kind of business plan right now, is that I use going and interviewing people as my way to lead gen, basically. So
To what?
to generate leads for my business, right?
Okay.
So I figure out somebody that I go, that would be a good fit. I'd like to meet them. And then I just make content with them.
Yeah.
And then we become friends. If something happens, great. If not, but my main goal is to provide value to them. So if I find somebody I want to meet, I reach out to them, send them stuff to give them samples of what I do. And then I kind of go, hey, what's a local restaurant or cafe or something that you really like? So I get them and I book that. So we film it there. And then it's kind of a cool thing to where I
Synchronous,
release it. I release stuff on Instagram collaboratively on a collaboration post with me, Think Emotion, the restaurant, and the business guy or CEO or whoever it is, And
Got their
so
favorite place at their watering hole. So to
right.
speak.
So we're kind of amping up the restaurant. And
Yeah.
but I just my mantra right now with this company is just to be everybody else's better marketing person.
Say that
So your
again.
job
Say
is
that
like-
again.
Be everyone else's better marketing person. So if you for my clients, it's kind of like if you go make content with somebody, you go to them, make content about their business and have it be better than the stuff they're making for themselves.
Wow.
And if you do that, guess what's going to happen? They're going to share the hell out of it.
Oh,
right? Because it's free and it makes them look awesome.
Yeah.
It's all
Everybody's
about
rising.
serving people, right?
Yeah.
So and then my thing is that eventually, people go eventually they go, who's this Michael guy? Whatever. But that's kind of secondary, I want to really, it's just a great way to start off relationships. But the other crazy thing that I've learned, and this has probably been my biggest aha moment this year, right? Is making content, and you know, because you're doing this too, but making content is, if you do it at a high level and it's good enough where people like it, right? Really high quality. It's a way to get lunch meetings you can never get,
Wow.
Yes.
right?
It's
Yeah.
a secret,
I don't think about that.
but it's
a
out
hack.
now.
But then guess what? You get to get the lunch meeting that would never have happened. And then guess what? You get to film it. Okay? And then what do you get to do? Show the whole world that it happened over multiple little reels over time.
That's really good
Wild.
point. I never thought about that, but
So
it's true.
you get to just broadcast the hell out of social proof of this meeting you shouldn't have been able to get,
Right.
right?
Wow, I think that's. I mean, I really think that's.
Don't look so surprised. You're
I
actually
am
here, sitting here
surprised.
doing it right now
but
with
but,
Michael
but
and every
honestly,
guest we have.
But I don't think about.
I know,
So
I know.
Well, yeah,
I ran an advertising agency for 25 years. I got
Right.
to the point where, oh man, I don't want to travel anymore. I don't want to. I mean, I just had it. So I retired, sold my building, as you know, a year ago, everything,
Mhm.
and I'm like, okay, I'm retired. Now what am I going to do? I got to do something. I got to get
Right.
some juice.
Right.
And so I'll start a podcast along with everybody else in the world
Yeah.
because I know everybody. I met everybody in my
Right.
business, and
Yeah.
it seemed like a natural fit. I did it as to keep felt like I kept my finger in the pie, to,
Right. Just keep going. Yeah.
to keep going, do something,
Right.
and it's just been
Well,
fun.
No. Yeah. And that, I mean, and kind of like what I was saying, and the thing that, so I produced this show for my friend Jimmy Smith. He's a big real estate guy in town, him and his wife. And they, while doing their show, I had that epiphany to where I was like, wait a minute, because we were having all his friends on, and he knows a bunch of people in town. But then we started to reach out to people that weren't his friends, and they started to say yes, and they were excited about it. And the big one that did it for me was Daryl Isaacs, because we said let's get the hammer on here. So let's at least ask, right? So we reached out, and they said yes, and he came over for an hour and
great.
20 minutes, and
Yeah.
and he told us he was so delightful. I love that dude.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I've
And-
heard from people that know him.
Shoot the breeze, right?
And then we made one reel out of that. We made several reels, but we made one reel that is at like 920,000 views. And I'm like, and he had a great time. And it's like, this is
Yeah.
insane, right? Like the real juice isn't in having our friends on, which is good. Thank you for having me on. I hope that we're friends.
I'm glad you're.
No, but I'm saying the real crazy thing is getting people that aren't your friends to come hang out with you, because guess what happens when they leave? You're a little bit friends now, and
Yeah.
you have their cell phone number. And guess what? If they forget about you, you can just release another reel,
Yes.
right? Crazy.
Those are
And it's
really good
weird how
tips.
connections
So
work
if you're
as well, like follow-up connections. Like this person's like, oh yeah, let me introduce you to that person, and so forth.
Well, the thing, yeah, and I've been around so many realtors and stuff, but think about realtors are always trying to,
Network.
as is everybody, keep their self top of mind. Because
Right.
not everybody's trying to buy a house all the time, right? But you got to kind of stay in their mind so that when they start to go, oh, we should move, then you can have them. But for me, it's wild because you can have a conversation with somebody and you can drip out reels for 12 months to remind them, right? And then I'll shut up. But one more crazy thing is, here's the really fun thing, and this is what I'm starting to get. I'm recording all these conversations. I have all this stuff in the hard drive, and I'm just dropping little bits here and there, people don't know when I'm filming. So they're starting to lose track of like they're thinking I filmed there 3 times now. Right? But it's all right. So that's
Drips and drabs and
Right.
right. They're losing track of when this was, and they're just
who cares?
it starts to me, I'm like, what I hope is it just starts to feel like it's like shit, Michael's just everywhere all the time. Like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not
Yeah.
bad,
Good.
right?
That's great. And now you're here.
And now I'm here.
Yeah.
And so a
And
year
we're
from now
lucky.
we'll say, remember when Michael was here? Yeah, well,
Yeah,
remember when?
it's like,
But
remember when he was over there? No, it's good.
I
We're
appreciate.
going to have you sign that seat before you go with a magic marker.
Yeah, there you go. So we said we wanted to do Let It Be and try to produce peace in the world and see if we could get all the. I watched the band, Robbie Robinson do
a little
The Weight.
bit, yeah.
He's since passed away, but I loved the band when it was out, and but he did it all during COVID. They sang The Weight, like it was the weight, kind of the weighted time of the world, and
Yeah.
they did it all by. Hooking the world together. I mean, there's a guy in Haiti playing the drum and everybody would sing a part of a verse, and so it bounced around the world, and they put that all together as kind of an ensemble of just common musicians, street musicians, but he was playing the guitar the whole time underneath it. I mean, and they
Oh,
go
yeah.
back to him where he's singing,
Yeah.
pulled into Nazareth. He's like,
Yeah.
but then.
How's the rest of it go? I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I can't think.
No.
That's what
I was just trying to
wanted
get
know.
him
He was
sing
singing it
that.
on the
You know
phone
the song?
earlier today.
You
No,
know
I
the
don't
song?
know it.
I don't know it
Sing
either. Well, I don't recognize it.
Pulled
Maybe
it.
we know.
Well, the reason he wrote it, he wrote most of the band. When I say the band up on Cripple Creek, they send me.
The band called
five
A
Name
little.
the
I've heard of the
band.
band, but I don't know
Okay,
this.
well, they rented a pink house in the middle of Pennsylvania or New York. I guess it was New York, and
Okay.
they all moved into this. They called it the music from the big pink. This pink house they rented. They all moved in there, and they said we ain't leaving until we make an album, and we'll just record it on reels to reel. And Bob Dylan comes over, and they're all hanging out. They're making this music in the basement of Big Pink in this house, and now people
Ooh.
pilgrimage to this house in New York out in the woods. Anyway, where am I headed with
Wow.
all that? I don't know. It was just I thought I would love to do something like that with you.
That would be cool to do another thing. I've thought about doing something like doing something different, maybe revisiting the We Are the World at some point. But
I wanted to do Let It Be if the Beatles would allow it, and
yeah,
and and because they were all about at the time I grew up. 1969 was my the first band I joined was 1969, and that was the year of Woodstock, and that was the year of all these protest songs, and everything was hitting at
Yeah.
that time, and the Beatles were all about. When Let It Be came on the TV that night, it was on Ed Sullivan's show, and it ran on for like 4 or 5 minutes, longer than any song I'd ever heard, and it was emotionally moving to me as a kid that they were trying to talk about just let it be, world peace, try to get things calmed down,
yeah,
let it be, man, and they were all sitting there in the studio, and they had all the gear and all the headphones on, and he'd walk over and play the piano for a while, and then he'd strum the guitar. I'm talking about all the Beatles. They were just
yeah.
hanging out in the studio doing this. I don't even think it was I think they were just it was just a natural
Impromptu.
moment, impromptu. Thank
Right,
you.
right.
That's the word. But I would just love to do something like that, just to talk about the world right now.
Yeah.
Think about that. Hold that thought.
Let's do it. Let's
man,
Let's do it.
let's do a
What I want
Kickstarter.
to do is I want to do follow-up interviews because I want to, in 365 days, I want to check back in with you. You don't have to commit to this, okay?
Yeah.
But like your story makes me want to do that because like I want to know who you're doing this with now. Since you're in all places at all times, videotaping and then putting the content out there
Mhm.
on different social media and X, I guess probably. Where
Yeah.
do you?
Mainly, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts,
What
Yeah.
about YouTube?
and I'm mainly going short form right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, but that's kind of, the longs are okay, but to me, most of unless you're like really famous for some reason, you're Jennifer
Yeah.
Lawrence or something. At the
Right.
beginning, it's all about the shorts, and then maybe the shorts eventually get people to the longer ones. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just all about the short form reels.
I want to bring people in that are in this community that are
Yeah.
doing something.
Yeah.
That are not just sitting there, and encourage other people to follow their dreams. If you got a dream, to launch into
Or
it
a
rather than-
desire. Yeah. It doesn't even have to be this like elaborate dream, just
No.
a desire
Mm-hmm.
to act on it,
Yeah.
be actionable.
Well, yeah, and it's
where it's obviously it's not going to hurt somebody, but like do that thing and see, like, if you're always wondering what would that be like,
Yeah.
right.
And
I mean,
Brian's
because
like, do it.
with me, it's like I decided to do something totally different when I was 33 or whatever, and just be like, let's see what this does.
Me too.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, it's
I launch into things, and I said I jump off the edge of a cliff with nylon material and thread, and by the
Yeah.
time I hit the ground, I had better have produced a nice parachute out of the right.
yeah. That's
And if it's going really well, stop doing it when it's going really well. But while you're headed up with the project, build a lifeboat that you step into and off
Yeah.
to. Because
Yeah,
if you
I mean,
wait
it's-
for the plane to run out of gas, and they always do,
yeah.
everything has a lifeline, but you got to build that lifeboat while you're hitting it, not when you're like, oh my God, I waited too long. Well, you can't wait too long.
Right. In marketing, you got to do that. In business school, they talk about the arc of, of a product, right?
Yeah,
And
I don't care if
you
you're
got to
the
have your
Rolling-
next
the
product.
Rolling Stones or
arc.
who you are, right?
Well, I think when I grew up, I love my parents, but I think a lot of people around that age with their kids, they didn't want them to fail. They just kind of wanted everything to go good, and there was kind of a they wanted things to be safe. I really think that's a bad idea. And
Let people experience
the problem is
challenges.
you don't learn when you don't fail.
Yeah.
So if there's anytime anybody's doing cool shit, they're failing. And so,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the last, it's funny because I've told my kids this and stuff too, but over the past year and a half or something, I've kind of made a deal with myself. Okay. Which I think I've kind of had this internally before, but it really had to go, okay. Because I have jumped out of some planes without a parachute and made parachute,
on the way down.
or pitched
Because you had to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's
It's
a lot
like
of motivation in that.
2021, I pitched a big video that I wrote it, but I didn't know how to execute it, but I did, but it was insane. And so, but what I'm saying, lately I've made a deal with myself that as long as I'm trying to do really cool shit, I'll forgive myself if I mess it all up. Okay.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's it. It's like, and like I tell my son, so can I tell you this one little thing? My son and me were building a PC. He's a big gamer. He wanted to build a PC. We'd never really done that. So we kind of pulled everything, Christmas money, and, I bought some of it, and his mom bought some of it, and the grandparents, everything. And we bought all these, we spent way too much money. And this thing's the best PC there ever was. Right. And so it's super fast, but we're building it. And Otto and I'm letting him help and stuff. And he goes, you're putting in the CPU, this, it's $500, this little square thing. And you're like clamping it down, and there's all these little pins. And Otto goes, what if I bend one of the pins? Kind of like, what if I mess up the CPU? Like, what if I just blow $500? Right. It's kind of what he was asking. And I was sitting there, I was like, man, like, if you do, you do. It's no big. I said, the real danger is you not doing any of this and sitting in your bed watching TikTok.
Yes.
Oh, so well said.
Right.
So
So
my parents
Yeah.
would, to interrupt you, would say, well, if you bend that, I bet you won't do it twice. And
Right. Or
you're
it's like
I won't do that again.
The parent that freaks out because the milk gets spilt at the dinner
Yeah.
table or something. It's like, let's not do that anymore.
And I'm not-
Let's learn from.
yeah. And I'm not down in my parents or whatever. I just think that whole generation, there was a little bit of a fear of like failure was bad and that would maybe ruin you or something. But it's like, you don't really learn anything. You don't learn anything when a big success happens. You usually learn when you fail.
You
And
do.
So,
That's when it
but
sticks.
you got to get back up.
But I've had it multiple times where I'm on a plane with all my gear going to do something that I'm scared about. And even just last week going to Dallas, and I was like, it's just, I try my best. I prepare my best, but you never know what's going to happen. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of things you can't control and stuff. So, But that's given me a lot of peace. I'm just like, you know what? There's a book called Full Catastrophe Living by John Kabat-Zinn that kind of goes into this a little bit too, I think, is to where you just make peace with full catastrophe, right?
I love it.
So if you do that, who can hurt you? Like
No one.
You've already made your bed with everything going the worst it can go. So like it's like, so
Yeah.
for me, it's like if I can be at
Beautiful.
peace with that, then I'm gonna be
Yeah.
good, you know. But I think you have to do those mind games with yourself to let yourself off the hook,
Yeah.
right? Just to
Yeah.
go, hey man, like, and it's also the relationship you have with yourself too, right? How you talk to yourself.
That's right.
To where like if you mess up something and you're like, screw you, you're such a piece of crap, you're a failure, you know, whatever. And but what I'm saying is the deal with myself is that, you know, if it does go really bad, I'm gonna be like, bro, you tried, you're out there doing cool shit, we're good, right?
I love that so
Absolutely.
much. So much. Yeah.
So yeah.
Michael, I tell you, I didn't realize time would come to an end so quickly. I feel like we're just getting started.
I know.
Yeah.
So will you come back?
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's do it.
But I want to do. I'm going to follow up with you because I have some other ideas as a fundraiser. A buddy of mine just recently bought Salem Speedway in Salem, Indiana,
Yeah.
and I talked to him. I said, "What do you want to do out there?" He said, "We only run 18 races. You got any ideas?" We did a fundraiser, he and I, along with some other people in a band, and it was for kids for Christmas that were in a shelter.
Yeah.
And they said, "You think you could raise $1,000?" And I said, "No, but I could probably raise $2,000. And I'm not going to give you a donation. We're going to raise this all in one night."
Right.
And we got the hall donated. We donated our time. We go in there. We didn't do 2. We did 3,000 that night. And they almost cried when we gave them the money and said,
Hell yeah.
"Here's $3,000 for these kids for Christmas."
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, if that worked for 3,000, I wonder if I could do that 10 times that big. So
Yeah.
at Salem Speedway, I said, you got the seating, you got the restrooms, you got the food capability. What if we did Band-Aid, like a
Mhm.
Band-Aid,
Like Farm Aid.
like
Mhm.
Farm Aid, only Band-Aid, and what can we do tonight? Let's raise 30,000 tonight.
Yeah.
Local musicians that would just go on there and play. I mean, it's
possible.
like mini Woodstock, and he's got camping facilities out there,
Yeah.
big fields. He said, "Can you do that?" I'm like,
Families are
"I don't
looking
know
for
why- I don't know why I
wholesome
couldn't.
things to do.
I-
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know why I couldn't."
Yeah.
Maybe we need to film it.
I don't know how that includes me, but we'll
Well,
keep talking about it.
well,
You're,
look
you're
out.
the eye in the
Look
sky.
out.
You're the
It's
God
not- it's not-
lens.
I'll tell you how it
Apparently, you're
includes you.
everywhere at all
You haven't
times.
said no yet, so you're in.
Yeah, that's good.
Like
I
that.
just want to do stuff.
Yeah. But you're good at that. I mean, like your
I do that.
your thrift shop, you know, that was so
Yeah.
successful. You know, you're good at that stuff, man.
Supporting animal shelters.
Yeah. They just bought a $250,000 building, paid cash for it, and they were 13 grand in the hole when they came to me. And I said,
So
I will
good.
not give you a donation. I will put you in business if you're right. You got to
Yep.
run it.
Yep. It's good.
And
Yeah.
That's a great
and
story.
that's not the first time I did something like that.
Yep.
That's why it was a go-to move for me, only because I knew that kind of thing worked.
Yeah.
And it's a model that other people are using to raise money for
Yeah.
organizations.
I love it.
But thanks for saying that. But it's just I'm proud of that because it worked. It's fun to make things work.
Oh,
Like you said, it's the power, but it's not for the prestige of doing it. It's for the self-satisfaction of having
yeah.
an idea and doing it.
And it
Well,
wasn't a
that's-
guaranteed success either. You risked failure, but you had to deal with yourself. You know what? I'm going to do it. We'll see how it goes. And it turned out great.
Right.
Yeah.
I said, but anyway, we'll talk forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come back. I really appreciate you coming tonight, and
Sounds good. Appreciate
Even-
you guys.
you're a
Matthew
cool
Sandler.
dude. We appreciate your
Michael.
time and talking to you.
Yeah. You're cool too.
Thanks.
And you and your hats.
Thank you.
Zoom in on that hat right now. Thank you.
So
Partner,
Justin.
you should say
It's
partner
Justin.
on the hat, partner. Here, with your bottle of bourbon. Talk soon.